Welcome back to my channel. Today we are reviewing yet another foundation. I don't think I've ever reviewed this many foundations in 1 month. It's been a lot, but it's a good thing. I love testing out new foundation because it's kind of my addiction. I love foundation, but this one has been sitting in my little bin to review for like a month, and this is the Smashbox Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-Hour Foundation. I was actually planning on reviewing this sooner, but all of the releases came out and I just kind of got like bombarded with all these new releases. So this one kind of got pushed to the side. And then recently Tati uploaded her video talking about this might be like the best foundation she's ever tested. And I was like, wait, this is something that I need to test like quickly. So I recently asked you guys in my community center, I did a poll asking which foundation you guys would rather see first. I had like 4 or 5 different foundations and you guys voted for this one. So that's what we're doing today. I apologize to all of you that are sick and tired of these foundation reviews. Although I really enjoy it and I know that so many of you guys have been requesting for me to do it, but I also know there's so many that are just done. Like they've got their foundation and they're good. And I remember that. Like I remember as a viewer, I never bought like a ton of foundations. Like once I found like a few that I really liked, I kind of stuck with those. Now that I have my channel, I'm buying all the new ones so that I can review them. But as a viewer, you don't need that many foundations. So I'm just gonna say this up front in this video. If you already have your foundations that are new, old, whatever, and you're absolutely loving them, there's really no reason to switch them. So just saying that up front, but so many of you guys are wanting to know my thoughts on this foundation. This was one of my favorite foundations last year. This is the Smashbox Studio Skin 15-Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation. The only thing that's negative about this is that it does break me out. So this is a foundation that I cannot wear for too many days in a row or it breaks me out. Now, before I get into the review of the foundation, I am gonna give you guys a little bit of history about who I am and what I like and look for when I'm reviewing foundation, because I feel like that's very important when you're watching a video and you're watching somebody review a foundation, that you know what they like and what they don't like. So I am 40 years old. I do have hyperpigmentation. I have adult acne, which I work really hard to keep under control. And I like a natural finish foundation. I like a good medium coverage, but I like my foundation to look like skin. I don't like it to be heavy. I don't like it to be cakey. I don't like it to be thick. I am too old to wear like thick makeup. I like more of like a dewy or radiant foundation, but I don't like the dewy to be like moving around. I like the dewiness to kind of set down, but I like my skin to look like my skin. That's what I look for. This one had me curious because it's full coverage, and I've seen mixed reviews about this. A friend of mine, Joyce Beauty, she and I have collabed a few times. She just reviewed this and she has pretty oily skin and she's over 40. I think she just turned 46, I believe, and this was a really hot mess for her. It did not work. It got really cakey. Now, let me say this. In the application, you will see I struggled with this one. Now that I kind of understand how the foundation works, I think I'll be able to apply it a little bit better. I will understand the foundation a little bit more, so I'll be able to apply it a little bit easier. This foundation retails for $36, and let me just say this, that is a fantastic price for this. And the reason why I say that is because this tube would last you like forever. I don't think you would go through this before it expired. This is how much I used on my entire face. I used that much. Now, sometimes I went in and added a tiny bit like this to build up coverage, but you don't need more than a teeny dot. If you're using like this much, you're gonna be using way too much. Do not go in heavy with this, because the thing about this formula is it's very, very pigmented, and it dries pretty quickly. So the thing that I struggled with today, I mean, look at that pigment. I mean, it is like full coverage. I mean, it is a full coverage pigment. But the thing about this foundation is it dries quickly. So when you first put it on, go in sections. Apply it, blend it out, make sure that it's smooth, make sure everything is blended, and then move on to your next section. So when I applied it today, I liked the brush a little bit better because I felt like I could control it. Because let's just say that you go in with the sponge And if you go in too many times in one area, let's just say that you're just like dabbing it in, we'll see as you're trying to blend it, you're putting so much foundation right here in the middle as you're trying to blend it out, that this right here in the middle can have a tendency to be cakey. If you go in with the brush, you can spread it a little bit more evenly, and then it's a thinner application versus the sponge. So I do not recommend applying this only with a sponge, you guys. If you want to make this foundation work, go in very lightly with a brush and then kind of smooth it out with a sponge. The sponge helps to melt it into the skin. Let's get into the description. It claims to be a weightless 24-hour full coverage foundation with oil and shine control that is also waterproof, sweat resistant, and won't look cakey or cause the blemishes. So it is for normal, dry combination and oily skin. A little goes a long way with this foundation. Apply the Photo Finish Primer, which you can apply any primer. Blend a drop of foundation and blend well. This cruelty-free formula reveals its true color and sets quickly, and build as you need. The result is incredible coverage that feels remarkably lightweight. So I used the foundation finder and I used my Fenty Shade 300 to match, and it came back with 3.05, which is a medium undertone with warm golden. This is definitely a little bit too yellow for me. That's all the information about the foundation. Let's go ahead and jump into the application portion of the video. I'm going to come back and do a 6-hour check-in so you guys can see what this looks like. Then I will come back and do a 12-hour check-in and give you guys my full final thoughts. I will see you guys in my first check-in. Let's get playing with this new foundation from Smashbox. So I did see Tati's review of this. If this is the best foundation she's ever tested, then this might be good. So of course, on one side of the face, I'm gonna use a sponge, and then on the other side of my face, I'm gonna use my brush. So I'm gonna start with this, and I think what I'm gonna do is maybe take a little bit of it and dot it on my face, and then blend it in. But let's go ahead and go in. Oh, that's too much. I can already tell that is plenty. Like, this is a very, very pigmented foundation. So I guess at least the good thing is that a little bit of it's gonna go a really long way. Now this shade is a tad bit yellow, but we'll see if I can get it to kind of warm up to my skin. Okay, now the brush is doing a good job to kind of spread it out. In certain areas, I'm gonna have to go over it with a sponge. Go in with the sponge and kind of really melt this into my skin. I think the brush allows you not to go too heavy though. So I think if I go directly, like if I went directly and picked this foundation up and put it on my face, I feel like I would get it too thick in certain areas. So that might be something, you know, to be thinking about when you're applying this. Let's just say that you've tried it and maybe it's getting too cakey for you. I recommend going in with a brush and doing a light even layer and then go over it with a sponge, or dot it on the face and then blend it in. I feel like if you're going straight in with foundation on the actual sponge itself, I think you're gonna get it too thick. This does cover, boy, it is full coverage. Now I'm gonna go over my wrinkles right here and pick up any extra product just to make sure that it's not sitting too heavy in my wrinkles. That will definitely help to not be cakey around my wrinkles. And I would start out with a small amount, and if you need to add more, you can add more, but I would not recommend applying a lot of this foundation. Now this might have dried, so this is a quick drying foundation. So for those of you, you know, I mean, I'm glad I did that. So I have to go in and use the brush to kind of break up that foundation. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that it was going to dry like that. I'm having a problem with it gathering right here because that's where I left it on that side and then worked on this side. I feel like this one is a nice foundation. It has potential to be a nice foundation, but it's a tricky foundation to apply. So I feel like once you master the foundation, you could probably get a decent finish with this one. I'm not in love with the application of this one today. I feel like I'm missing some here on my nose. Like it's a different type of foundation, and because of the way that it dries, it's almost like you can't apply it like you do other foundations. Like this one is a very thin formula, very highly pigmented, but wants to dry pretty quickly. And so you can't apply it like a traditional foundation. So now that I kind of understand the foundation, I think I'll be able to apply it a little bit better tomorrow, but you can see a tiny bit of my hyperpigmentation coming through, and I could probably pack more on in that area, but I don't like a lot of foundation in my hairline, so I'm gonna leave it there. I'm totally fine with that. In the wearing, I feel like if this is built up anywhere on your face, you're gonna struggle with it. If you have it anywhere on your face just a tad bit too thick, you're going to struggle with it. But right now it is currently 9:37. I am going to come back and do a midday check-in today. I will see you guys in my first check-in. Okay everyone, I am back for a midday check-in. It is currently 3:30, right on the dot. Wow, so I have officially had this on for almost exactly like 6 hours. I didn't realize that, actually. That was not planned, but that was good. Okay, it is a little bit thick and heavy around my wrinkles. It's a little bit creasy, and you'll see that when I pull you in. But everywhere else, it's looking really good. If I could figure out a way to not make this look thick and heavy in places, because this was my first day kind of playing around with it, I don't know if it's like, you know, I don't know. There are some spots that around my nose, which my nose was kind of hard, and I don't know, like there's things that I really like about this, but then I also think it's very, very tricky. It's a very tricky little foundation. I think the shade is kind of warmed up. When I turn off the ring light, you'll see it a little bit better for what it is. It doesn't look too bad. So, you know, it's gathering a little bit right here around my nose. My nose was a little bit harder for me to apply. I'm going to do a better job applying it tomorrow. But it is creasing right around here. And it looks thicker in certain areas. It's like right here, it's a little patchy. I don't know if it's showing up on camera. When I turn off the ring light, it might show up more. Like this side looks really good. And I think it's because I went in with a tiny bit, like a tiny little layer. Don't mind my makeup all over my concealer. Like it's all over the place. Oh my gosh. The palette that I used today is all over my eyes. Oh, the foundation doesn't look too bad. I mean, I've seen worse. I do think this is a very finicky type of foundation, and I think you have to be so extremely careful with it. I don't feel like this is a foundation that's an everyday foundation anyway. So this is more of like a special occasion where you really need a full coverage. All right, let's go ahead and turn off the ring light. So I just turned off the ring light. I'm sitting in front of a window. It's not direct sunlight. And I have two umbrella lights sitting in the corner. This is just more natural lighting. And you can see it's a little bit heavy in this area. Like sometimes I like this. This is where I show my age the most, is right here. And this is the area that I have to be very, very careful in applying too much. Now I know how this foundation works. I will just be more careful with it. And, but yeah, I like it. So far, I don't love it and I don't hate it. It doesn't look too bad. Let me come in real close. I mean, it's creasing. You can see it's creasing, but it doesn't look, it's creasing, but it doesn't look crazy heavy. It looks weird around my nose. It does. Like my nose is having issues. It looks really good on my forehead though, but I get Botox in the area, so my forehead's pretty smooth. You know, it doesn't look bad against my creepy skin. It doesn't look the best, but it doesn't look bad. Like I've had foundation looks worse than that. So that's it for this check-in, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's check-in. Okay everyone, I'm back for my final thoughts on this foundation. This is not the next day. I was planning on doing this review for just 2 days, but this has been such a tricky foundation that I just didn't feel like I could give my full final thoughts after just wearing it for 2 days. I needed to wear this one for more than 2 days. I have a hair in my nose. The joys of having a German Shepherd. So it is currently 9:43 at night. So I applied this, I would say right around noontime. Normally, you guys know I like to wait 12 hours and give you guys like a full 12-hour wear test. I have worn this for 12 hours and it looks worse than it does now. That's the reason why I wanted to come down here at 9 versus waiting until 12 hours later, because, which I'm fine with waiting till 12 hours later because most of the time I'm up till 12:30, but I felt like it was important for you guys to see what this looks like 9 hours later without any powders. There are 2 videos I'm going to link in the description box down below. One is from my friend Jennifer Joyce Beauty. She has pretty oily skin. This was a mess on her. I guess because it says it's a matte foundation, she was assuming it would be, but for her, it just was a hot mess. However, my friend Mel Thompson, she reviewed this foundation and she felt like it was pretty matte and actually thought it would work really good for oily skin. So I do feel like this is not going to work for everybody. Both reviews were fantastic. All made great points, but definitely opposite opinion, and mine's going to be opposite as well. So I feel like you guys need to have a lot of information about this foundation, which is the reason why I'm suggesting that, because after Tati's video, it made it sound like it was just like a holy grail. I don't feel like that's the case with this one. There's several reasons for that. Number one, this has been kind of oily for me. I wouldn't say it's remained matte. If you have really dry skin, I don't think you're going to want to try this, only because I think it's going to cling to any dry spots. So if you have any dry patches, stay far away from this one. But I also feel like if you're extremely oily, this might not be one for you, because today I'm not wearing any powders. That is one thing when I applied this today, I hardly put any makeup on, but I applied the foundation and I'm testing out a new concealer as well. I wanted to do this final check-in with no powders, because the only way I like this foundation is when I wear a powder. When I wear a powder, it doesn't feel oily, but you can see that, I mean, I know that sitting in front of the light, it kind of glares off of my skin. But you'll see when I pull you in, I accidentally touched my forehead, I don't know, a couple of hours ago, and it made this little mark. I've now tried this for 4 different days. I've tried it with the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, which is the one primer that makes me a little bit too dewy with this one, and it will lift from the face. I've tried it with the Tatcha Silk Canvas, but I almost felt like the Tatcha Silk Canvas, it almost made it harder to spread on the face, which is weird because the Tatcha Silk Canvas is like a silky type of primer where it just gives you that silky veil over the skin. But for some reason, that was not a good combination with this foundation. That is the first foundation I've ever tried that the Tatcha Silk Canvas didn't work with it. Like, it kind of grabbed onto it and it was kind of harder to blend. I don't understand it. It was weird. I also tried it with the Banana Bright face primer from Ole Henriksen, this one right here. And I liked this one, I think, a little bit better, only because this one kind of like sets down on your skin. It gives it kind of an illuminating look, but it sets down to where it's not like hydrating, but it's not silky. It just kind of sets down and then you go over top of it. And then I also used a Smashbox primer that I've had on hand, like just one of those like deluxe size samples that, you know how we always get those. Primer from Smashbox was the best application. So the best way for me to apply this is a tiny bit. If I go in too thick with this, it's a mess. So I think that's why this one is not good for everybody. I don't feel like this is going to work for everybody. For one, you have to use a little bit. If you don't apply it right, you're going to hate it. You have to use a little bit. Number 2, it's so full coverage that I almost feel like it's for those special occasions. It looks beautiful in pictures. In fact, it takes one of the best pictures besides the airbrush flawless finish. I would say normal and combo is probably going to have the best experience with this one. Somebody that likes to wear powders is probably going to have a better experience with this one. Tried a lot of matte foundations, but this one didn't feel matte to me. But again, we all have different skin. We all have different skin types. So on my skin, personally, right now, I would say I am more normal. It did not feel matte on me. But when I apply the Hourglass powder and I put a little bit of the veil over this, and then I go in with my makeup, and then I put a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder over top to kind of smooth out the pores, that's when I love it the most. Now, the powders allowed it to last a little bit longer. So the powders, I would say I probably get, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours worth of wear. If I don't apply any powder, this is what starts to happen, where I can start, like, if I touch my face, it'll make a mark. If I answer the phone, it's going to leave foundation all over the phone. You know what I'm talking about. It's one of those foundations. So see how it's gathered really bad around my nose, and that's just from like itching my nose. You can see it's really gathered right around here. I had to gently itch my face, and you can see the nail mark. So see this like patch of foundation that's sitting here? That is what I don't like about this foundation. If I don't wear powder, this is what it does. So it's almost like it has to have powder. It's one of those that just needs it. I have pretty much no foundation on my nose just from going like this. I don't know. It's just not my favorite. I just don't feel like this is going to work for everybody. And I kind of feel like there's other foundations out on the market that are much better than this one. I just want the foundation to work with my favorite primer. And if I want to wear powder that day, it'll work great. If I don't want to wear powder that day, it'll be fine. Like, there's just so many foundations on the market. There's so much competition that I don't really want to force something to work. You know what I mean? All right, let's go ahead and turn off the ring light. So as you can see, it just doesn't look natural at all. I mean, of course, if you took the nose out of it, the nose looks like a hot mess. I'm missing some foundation around my chin. It's completely gone here. You know, it's starting to get a little bit crazy, but the forehead is awful because as you can see, I have this big patch of foundation right here, and then I have some missing up here. See all those little dots where it's kind of clinging to like the pores of where my hairs are, you know what I mean? Like my peach fuzz. But this looks terrible. I mean, what is that situation? All I did was went like this, and that's what it does. See that? Let me try right here. See that? You guys, that's terrible. If this is a foundation that you've been considering, I don't recommend it. I feel like there's so many other foundations out in the market that are full coverage that makes your skin look much better than this one, and I feel like it lasts a little bit longer, and yeah, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. So those are my final thoughts on the foundation. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I know that Tati loved this foundation, and you know, everybody's skin is totally different, and foundation reviews are subjective to the individual. So just because I like something doesn't mean that somebody else is going to like it, and if they like it doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Like, we're all different. We all have different skin types. We all apply our makeup differently. We all wear our makeup differently, and we all want something different from our makeup. So we are all different, and I get it. I'm not calling Tati a liar. It worked great for her, and I'm so glad that it did, but it just wasn't the right foundation for me. I feel like there's plenty of foundations out on the market that are much better for my skin, and there you go. So I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day filled with love and happiness. I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you all so much. Bye.